From GCSEs to global chaos, the making of a teenage hacker. So, who was this cracker character? Turns out he was your average British teenager. Think homework, video games, the occasional row with dad about cleaning his room. Oh, and he also happened to be a coding prodigy who could infiltrate government systems faster than you can say national security breach. Cracker's journey began like many others. Pure curiosity. He started tinkering with computers, exploring the online world, and stumbled upon the shadowy corners of the internet where hacking was less a crime and more an art form. He found a home in online forums, chatting with other tech-savvy rebels, sharing tips and pushing the boundaries of what was possible. It was like a digital treehouse, except instead of building things with wood and nails, they were building digital battering rams to knock down the doors of the powerful. Cracker was developing a conscience, a sense of right and wrong. He saw the injustices in the world and thought, you know what, I've got this laptop and a Wi-Fi connection. Maybe I can do something about it. Oops, I deleted your debt. Early exploits and digital mischief. Like any budding artist, Cracker needed practice. His early hacks were a mix of harmless mischief and hold my juice box and watch this bravado. One of his first victims, the Canadian Medical School at Windsor University, he stumbled across a list of student debts. You know, those soul-crushing numbers that follow you around longer than your embarrassing teenage photos? Well, Cracker decided to play Robin Hood, digitally erasing those debts with a few keystrokes. Was it legal? Nope. Was it morally complicated? Definitely. This was a turning point. Cracker realized he could use his powers for good, or at least for what he perceived as good. He had tasted the power of disrupting the system, and frankly, he liked the flavor. Hacking for humanity, and a little annoyance, the birth of an activist. Cracker was done playing around. He was ready to make a statement. And what better way to announce your arrival as a hacktivist than by taking down a website that promotes bestiality? Yeah, you read that right. He stumbled upon a Danish website that was basically the internet equivalent of a dumpster fire. Outraged and disgusted, Cracker unleashed a digital fury, bombarding the site with so much traffic it crashed harder than your internet during a Netflix binge. This wasn't just about taking down a website, though. It was about drawing attention to an issue, about using his skills to right what he saw as a terrible wrong. He was a digital vigilante, fighting for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Well, in this case, fighting for animals who couldn't consent to being on that website. This was Cracker 2.0, the hacker who used his powers not just for kicks, but for change. He had found his calling, and the world was about to become his digital playground. Remember that whole Danish website debacle? Turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg. Cracker was on a roll, and Denmark, for better or worse, was in his crosshairs. He discovered that bestiality was still legal in Denmark at that time. Cracker, being the animal-loving, justice-seeking hacker that he was, decided to take matters into his own hands. He launched a full-on digital assault, disrupting government websites, leaking information, and generally making a nuisance of himself. Think of it as a digital sit-in, but instead of protest signs, he had lines of code and a very particular set of skills. His actions sparked outrage, debate, and more than a few awkward conversations in the Danish parliament. And you know what? It worked. Denmark eventually criminalized bestiality, proving that sometimes all it takes is a teenager with a laptop and a bone to pick to change the world. Remember Edward Snowden, the guy who leaked all those classified documents about government surveillance? Yeah, he made quite an impression on our friend Cracker. Snowden's revelations were like a wake-up call for Cracker. They confirmed his suspicions. Big governments were watching, listening, and collecting data on everyone. It was like living in a giant digital fishbowl. Only the fish had no idea they were being watched. This wasn't just paranoia. This was a teenager witnessing the erosion of privacy, the potential for abuse, the slow creep of a surveillance state. And he wasn't about to just sit back and let it happen. He was going to fight back, one keystroke at a time. Snowden was the mentor Cracker never met. A digital ghost whispering tales of government overreach and the importance of fighting for freedom. And Cracker, fueled by youthful idealism and a healthy dose of teenage rebellion, was ready to take up the mantle. Cracker realized he couldn't do it alone. He needed a crew, a team of like-minded individuals willing to fight the good fight, digitally, of course. And so Crackers with Attitude, CWA, was born. They were like the digital A-team, only instead of blowing things up, they exposed hypocrisy and made people question everything they thought they knew about cybersecurity. Their MO was simple: target high-profile individuals within the US government and make their lives a digital nightmare. Think leaked emails, embarrassing personal information, and enough online chaos to make even the most tech-savvy official break a sweat. CWA were like digital Robin Hoods, stealing information from the rich and powerful and sharing it with, well, everyone with an internet connection. They believed in transparency, accountability, and the power of a good old-fashioned digital prank to expose the hypocrisy of the powerful. Section 8, Brennan, you've got mail, and it's from a 15-year-old. Remember John Brennan, the CIA director who got that surprise phone call? Well, CWA decided to give him another reason to change his phone number. They hacked into his personal email account. The head of the CIA had his inbox turned into a public forum. Instead, you see an email from CWA with the subject line, "Oops, we did it again." CWA had access to his personal correspondence, security clearance documents, you name it. It was a giant middle finger to the entire intelligence community. Section 9. The world takes notice. From bedroom hacker to global headline. Cracker and CWA's exploits weren't staying confined to the dark corners of the internet anymore. They were front-page news, sparking debates about cybersecurity, government overreach, and the fine line between hacktivism and cybercrime. Governments were scrambling, security experts were panicking, and parents everywhere were suddenly very interested in what their kids were doing online. Cracker had become a global phenomenon, the poster child for a new generation of digital rebels who weren't afraid to take on the establishment. Newspapers ran headlines like "Teenage Hacker Shames CIA" and "Is Cracker a Hero or a Menace?" Talk shows couldn't get enough of the story, inviting every cybersecurity expert and their mother to weigh in on the latest developments. Cracker had become a symbol of teenage rebellion, of digital prowess, of the power of one person to challenge the status quo. He was a digital rock star, and the world was his mosh pit. Section 10 busted when the feds come knocking, and it's not for cookies. All good things must come to an end, even digital crime sprees. In 2016, the long arm of the law finally caught up with Cracker. He was arrested and charged with multiple cybercrimes. The jig was up, the game was over, the metaphorical cookie had crumbled. Suddenly your front door bursts open and a SWAT team storms in. Instead of a villain, they find a teenager in pajamas, surrounded by empty pizza boxes. Cracker's arrest sparked a global debate. Was he a criminal mastermind or a misunderstood kid? Cracker was sentenced to 5 years in a juvenile detention center, a harsh reminder that even in the digital world, actions have consequences. Section 11, lessons learned, maybe. The legacy of a teenage hacker. Cracker was sentenced to 5 years in a juvenile detention center. 5 years? That's longer than some people spend in college. It was a harsh reminder that even in the digital world, actions have consequences. But Cracker's story isn't just a cautionary tale. It's a reminder that we live in a world where a teenager with a laptop can expose the vulnerabilities of the most powerful institutions on Earth. So what did we learn from Cracker's digital escapades? Well, for starters, maybe don't mess with the CIA. Also, if you're going to hack the government, at least wear pants when the feds come knocking. But more importantly, Cracker's story reminds us that the digital world is a double-edged sword. It can be a tool for good, for activism, for holding the powerful accountable. But it can also be used for mischief, for harm, for chaos. It's up to us, the users, to decide how we wield that power. And maybe, just maybe, learn a thing or two about cybersecurity along the way. Cracker's story is a testament to the power of technology and the importance of using it responsibly. In the end, Cracker's legacy is a complex one, filled with lessons about power, responsibility, and the ever-evolving digital landscape we all